They say that when night falls over the green hills of Ireland and the mist curls low across the stones, you can hear her. A cry that pierces bone, a wail that freezes the blood, a voice not of this world, weeping for a soul soon to depart. Some call her a ghost, others say she's a fairy, a harbinger bound by ancient bloodlines. But what is she truly? Where did the legend of this mourning spirit begin? Why does her scream foretell death? And for whom does she cry? And how did a whisper in the dark become one of the most enduring omens in Celtic lore? For myths are not born from nothing. They rise from the people who first believe. And if you wish to keep their stories alive, subscribe and join us among the keepers of the Arcana. To understand the Banshee, we must return to the land that gave her voice, Éire, ancient Ireland. A land of green valleys and grey skies, of rain that falls like veils over forgotten stones, and of people who saw the world not as one realm, but as two, the mortal and the otherworld, forever entwined. To the early Celts, every hill, river, and forest had a spirit. The dead were never far. They lingered among the living, whispering through wind and water. In such a world, the boundary between life and death was thin, and grief itself could take form. So when a cry was heard at night, echoing through the glens, it was not merely wind. It was her, the Banshee, woman of the fairy mound. She did not bring death, she warned of it. Her song was sorrow, not malice, a lament for what must come. But where did her legend begin? The answer lies in Ireland's oldest belief, in a people who saw death not as an end, but a crossing. The Banshee's story may reach back to the Tuatha De Danann, a race of divine beings who once ruled Ireland before fading into the hills. When mortals came, these spirits withdrew underground, becoming the Sidhe, the fairy folk. Among them were women tied to noble families, guardians who watched over their bloodlines. When a member was near death, the spirit would appear, wailing in grief. Early accounts tell of Banshee, keening women, mortal women who sang laments at funerals, their cries echoing through the valleys. They mourned the dead aloud, for silence was thought to trap the soul. Over time, these mortal mourners became mixed with the supernatural. The Banshee became the Banshee, a woman who no longer keened for the dead, but for the dying. In early Gaelic society, family meant everything. Clans were bound by lineage, land, and honor. Each had its guardian spirits, protectors who followed them through generations. So when someone of noble blood neared death, the clan might hear a cry at the window or see a pale figure by the river, her hair long and unbound, her dress flowing gray or white, sometimes beautiful, sometimes withered and old. They knew at once the Banshee had come. But she was not evil. She did not kill. Her wail was grief itself given form. To hear her was to know that loss had already begun. The Irish believed the soul's journey was perilous, that it needed mourning to ease its passage to the next world. And so the Banshee's lament became sacred, a sign that the departed would not go alone. This tale is but one among many that haunt our archive, from the Wendigo of the American North to the werewolf beneath the moon. But of all of them, the Banshee alone does not kill. She only weeps because she already knows. So listen closely, for her shadow still walks the hills, and her story is far from over. So what then were her powers? She could appear at will, seen only by those fated to die or their kin. Her cry was unlike any mortal sound, a keening so mournful it could shatter courage and stop the heart. Some said she combed her long hair by the river's edge, and to take the comb would bring doom upon you. Her form changed with the family she served. To the O'Neills, she was young and radiant, her eyes red with tears. To the McGraths, she was aged and veiled, a ghostly matron of sorrow. Sometimes she traveled with others, a host of shrieking spirits called the Banshee. Together, they formed the Coche de Bower, the Death Coach, a spectral carriage said to collect the souls of the dead. Through all her forms, one truth endured. The Banshee was never random. She came for the bloodlines of old Ireland, those whose ancestors had known the fairy folk. Her cry was both warning and gift, a final courtesy from the Otherworld. But what happens when the warning itself becomes the terror? When a voice meant to mourn begins to haunt? Stories spread through the countryside of men hearing her weep near the gate, only to find a loved one gone by dawn. One farmer, walking home through the fog, saw her sitting by a brook, combing her hair of silver strands. When he called out, she turned, and her face was both young and ancient, her eyes hollow with sorrow. He ran, but her cry followed him home. The next morning, his mother was dead. In another tale, a soldier heard a voice crying near his barracks. He went to look and saw nothing but mist. That night, news arrived. His brother had fallen in battle. Even in later centuries, travelers swore they heard her, a single note, long and piercing, rising from the moors before a funeral bell could sound. To the Irish, these were not coincidences. They were reminders that death walks with us, and sometimes it has the courtesy to knock. But could one escape the Banshee's cry? Could you silence her before she sang your name? The people believed there was no fighting fate, only showing respect for it. If the Banshee appeared, you did not curse her. You bowed your head. You said a prayer for the soul she mourned, perhaps your own. Still, there were charms whispered against sudden death. An iron cross above the door, holy water at the window, a candle lit to guide the spirit home. And some swore that if you heard her keening thrice, you could speak her name aloud, and she would vanish, leaving only silence in her wake. Yet, even silence could not comfort those who knew what it meant, for her cry was never truly gone, only waiting for the next sorrow to awaken it. But what becomes of a cry when the world that believed in it begins to fade? As Ireland changed, so did the Banshee. In the age of Christianity, she was cast as a ghost or fallen angel, weeping for sinners instead of bloodlines. In time, her myth spread beyond Ireland's shores, to Scotland, where she became the Benigne, the washerwoman, seen cleaning blood from the clothes of the doomed. In Wales, she echoed as the Cyhyraeth, a spirit whose cry foretold death by sickness or war. And yet, despite centuries of change, the heart of her legend remained the same. She is not the bringer of death, but the voice of it. A memory of those who once keened beside open graves, crying for the ones they loved. Even today, her image haunts art, music, and story, a symbol of loss so ancient that it still lives in language itself. To keen is still to mourn, to echo her wail across time. And so, when the wind howls at night, and you hear a woman crying in the distance, do not answer, for it may not be the wind, it may be her, weeping for you. The Banshee herself was never real, but the fear that created her, the fear of loss, of watching death draw near and being powerless to stop it, that part has always been true. This was Chronica Arcana, the myth of the Banshee. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it helps us bring more myths and legends to life. And if you'd like to continue your journey, the Myth and Magic playlist awaits. Thank you for watching, we'll see you in the next myth.